Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Carla Coates. She is a leadership coach for people who look successful but feel stuck, has decades of leadership experience, helps high performing professionals and women in midlife navigate burnout, career transitions, and next chapter decisions with clarity and confidence. So, we learn from her how to recognize burnout when you are still performing well, what personal responsibility actually means in leadership, and how to move from autopilot to intentional next chapter decisions without blowing up your career. Welcome to the show, Carla.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Carla. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about leadership, we'll talk about burnout, and we'll talk about next chapter clarity. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
So I'll let the audience know that I worked a while working for the United States federal government in a leadership position. And I was at a high level position, but I was not satisfied. I just kind of, and I tell people all the time, I started walking around, I started driving around, I just felt lost. But from the outside, I was very successful. I had multiple teams within the country, but I wasn't satisfied and I couldn't figure out why. I became a certified coach twice and I had to learn what leadership looked like, but what did I really want? And what I really wanted for my personal self, I had to hire a coach to pull it out of me. I really wanted to have my own business. And when you have that good government job, a lot of people were shocked. They were like, Carla, but you're doing so well here. And I was like, yeah, but it's not really what I want. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with the people, but I felt as a leader, I felt unfulfilled in my life. So a lot of people have gone through that. I can speak to it because I lived through it. So I've been running my business for the last several years, and I'm very happy because it's my dream.
Absolutely, absolutely, Carla. So this is your dream and you are living it. But for a lot of people, you see, when they start looking at something in whatever form of employment or work that they do, they look at success.
Yeah.
And when they are successful in that, why do they always have to look at that success itself will give you be the place which where you will feel fulfilled? Isn't it about that success gives you the tools to fulfill yourself? For example, if you like working at say with kids,
Mhm.
then your success will give you enough money to go and spend and do the things that you want and make their lives better. Their smiles will make your life better. Why does it always have to be that this particular place is not fulfilling me?
So
And you are still very successful. Help us understand from that dilemma that a lot of people face. And many a times, one can get confused also exactly what they want in life.
yeah, it's your journey in life. Sometimes you're in a position that you see something down the road. I really want to be able to achieve this particular, let's say, position, business, whatever it is. I want to be able to achieve that. And it takes you a while to get there because sometimes the journey is very hard, and you spend time and you learn from failures, you learn from other people's mistakes. But then when you finally reach it, you think, you know what? I learned and I enjoyed the hard journey more than the success because it's not what I thought it would be. I thought that, the heavens would open, everything would just be wonderful. And it's just, okay, I've reached this level. It's no longer challenging. I feel that, okay, there's got to be something else that I can strive for. And when it comes to children, I tell you, my mother, I will always talk about my mother and success because I mirrored her life when it came to working. She showed us that you need to be honest, you need to be able to take care of your family, but it doesn't stop with just having that one successful position. She was someone that she loved to sew. And I tell you, I can't sew at all. I can't, not at all. But she showed us that, I had my full-time job. I had a great position. I managed people, but there are things I like to do. So she started having this business where she sold costumes. She sewed a wedding gown. She did all these other things, and it was beyond the regular success. And as a child, I thought, oh, I thought you just had this one particular area that you could just, accomplish, and then you sit in that for the rest of your life. But what I saw from her is that you don't. You may be able to achieve that, but there's always something else down the road, something that it could have been back there that you never implemented, or you could just see other opportunities that are in front of you that you want to continue to move forward. So as a child, it really taught me that you can't be stuck in this one position if you see other opportunities. But I have to turn it to the other side when you mentioned kids. On my father's side, with my dad, he was fine. He was a mailman. He enjoyed being a mailman. He was a mailman for like 40 years. So if you're happy where you are, be content. There's nothing wrong with that. So I saw it from both sides. But for my mom, it was like, wow, she had a great level of success, but she simply wanted more. And that showed me that, oh, life just doesn't stop once you reach a certain level of success. There's just plenty of opportunities out there if you want them. I have to be clear with that. If you want them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for people who are successful, they look very successful also from outside. How do they are they able to maintain that that sort of a outward persona? Doesn't it reflect, or is it is it that they keep on trying to look outside for outside? What's the harm in looking a bit like I am successful, but I don't think that I'm enjoying it so much as the way you are thinking about it. I want to understand, do they have to really work hard to create that persona, outside persona, about being happy, looking successful, which they are, but are not happy the way the world is perceiving them to be?
Yeah, it's like social media. You could smile on social media and they could have a lot of clips of you and everyone thinks you're just a happy person. But they
Right.
don't know the behind the scenes where you could be struggling. You could have a child who's sick. You could have a parent who's sick. You can put on that face. I saw it quite a bit. And I have to go back to myself that I thought that, I wanted something more. I wanted that next chapter. And so I went to work every day. This is when we were going to the office every day before COVID shut down everything. And I thought that I'm pretty good. I'll smile and have a great conversation with staff, with my colleagues, with my leadership. And someone said to me, I can't remember the exact words, but they just looked at me and thought, Carla, so what's going on with you? I said, what do you mean? I still had that smile. They said, you just don't seem like yourself. I thought, oh my gosh, they could see something that like a yearning in me that I thought that I was covering up because I had this high level of success and people knew it. So while we can smile and joke and have a good time, others can really see. You can't always show yourself with this big beautiful smile and happy all the time. Others can see it'll start to seep through with people who really know you. Now, if you just have casual relationships, you have a lot of casual working relationships in the work environment. A lot of times people simply just don't know you that well. So they'll just go over and gloss over you, that person's okay. But people who get to know you and have a decent relationship with you in the work environment, and especially your family members at home, they'll know. I also had someone else to just say, look at me like, okay, Carla, I see something else going on in you. And I did the same thing. What do you mean? So close relationships, and again, people you work with who know you well enough, they can see through the mask that there's a yearning, that there's something more. I coached someone one time, and he worked at this position for 21 years, but he was a musician and he wanted to develop that. And he said he just didn't know that he could build a business from that. And he was so happy to realize that everything that had been built up in him was actually starting to come out, even though people around him could see it all along. And he thought, oh, no one knows, but people could see it all along. So again, you can have that smile, but people who really know you, they know that there's a yearning for more, even though you look successful, and you are successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. You also talk about burnout, you talk about performance, and you also talk about fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people are also happy in their work, but they are burnout, and they may consider that I'm not happy in my work. What is the best way to know whether my unhappiness is because of burnout and not because of the job? And the fulfillment part is not, a case here. How do I know whether I want fulfillment, or I want, or all this is because of the burnout? I need to have some rest. Help us understand from that perspective, so that they can find the right direction for themselves.
Okay, so burnout is different for everyone. It could be simply, let's say, from a position within a company. You could be burnt out because you have a particular leader, a manager, supervisor, whatever you want to call that person, who is just simply wearing you out with just an enormous amount of work. Or you could be burnt out because not so much of the work, but because of the atmosphere within the organization. And then you flip it to home. There's a lot of people, I went through this as far as taking care of elderly parents. And sometimes people could be burnt out because suppose there's a wife at home with 5 kids. She could simply be burnt out because there's a lot to do when you care for multiple people by yourself. So it can't be one size fits all. I would say first, you need to be able to sit back and gather some time on your calendar, something as simply as putting yourself on the calendar. It sounds so weird, so simple, and at times, I have to admit, it is hard. You have to put yourself on the calendar. You can start with small time, something as simple as, you know what, I'm going to take the next 5 minutes and I need to sit there and I need to be quiet. I need to taking the next 15 minutes and I need to think. You ever heard of John Maxwell?
I've heard about him, but I've
Yeah,
not.
so
Yeah.
he's a leadership coach throughout several countries. And I often talk about this. He said people need to, when you're in business, in life, you need to put time on your calendar to think. And so if you're running around doing things, again, whether it's just within your home life, this could be within your organization, but you got to sit down and have time to think. If you're a CEO, you need to put on the calendar, I need the time to think, because you got to be able to gather your thoughts, and you need to be able to say, what can I release off my calendar? My sister-in-law, she just had a baby two months ago. and she's a huge extrovert. Well, my brother's a huge introvert. And she said, you know what? I just need to be able to get out the house. I just need to be able to get out the house just for a couple of hours, one day a week. So they've scheduled that. He has no problem staying home, but she is just let me get out the house for a couple of weeks. But she realized that, and she had to put herself on the calendar. I can't stress it enough. You start with taking care of yourself and what that means to you. Each person is different. For me, one of the things I had to learn to do was simply to, and that was in a leadership role, I had to delegate more. I took on all the work myself. And I said, wait a minute, I've got these high performing individuals. They're supposed to do their jobs. Why am I doing their jobs? So I had to delegate more. I had to release things off of my responsibility and give it to them. And they were grateful because they knew this is what I was supposed to do, not Carla. So, but I had to release that in order to be able to have time to think about the future. So something as simple as taking 5 minutes, taking 10 minutes, taking 15 minutes, and put it on your calendar at whatever stage or situation you are with your life. You need to be able to take time for yourself and think. It sounds so simple, but I tell you, it's a huge reward because you're going to think about, oh, what do I need to do with this situation that's upcoming? I need to be able to have some kind of focus and some type of release mentally that will help me throughout the day. So again, I say it's very simple, but you need to put yourself on your own calendar.
Absolutely, absolutely, Carla. One thing about, some people who don't feel fulfilled,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have got bills to pay and you can't just leave a job like
Yeah.
that. And many a times you need to plan it out. You talk about, next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get that clarity? How do I prepare for it without, leaving things what I have at the moment? What is your best advice for people who want to evaluate their fulfillment journey? How do they go about doing that, as well as making that smooth transition from what they are doing right now?
So with clarity, again, you have to know where you want to go, and that takes time. You're unfulfilled. Let's say you're unfulfilled in a particular position. In order for you to move forward anywhere, you have to be able to decide this is where I want to go. I coached one lady a few years ago, and she kept saying to me, Carla, my boss will not give me anything. He won't give me any work. He won't do this. And she kept blaming everything. And she just felt miserable. And I said, how's your relationship with your husband? She said, oh, I have a great husband. We have a great relationship. And she went on talking about that. I said, well, what about with your children? How are they? She said, great. She said, everything. I said, your mother-in-law. She said, I have the best mother-in-law. And she started talking about her family. And she said, you know what? I'm so focused on my position, what my boss is not doing for me, but I have a wonderful life. And over time, she learned that I need to be able to leave that position and I need to go for another position outside of the organization. But with gaining her clarity, it took time. So you can't expect that, okay, this position is not great. Immediately, I'm going to do something else. What is that something else? Take your time. It may not be for months and months and months. It could be the next hour. It could be for the next week. But you need to be able to take the time to decide what is it that you want. And you have to be patient with yourself. Everyone wants a quick response. I want to do this. But as we've all experienced, life doesn't always give you something quick. It could take time. So be patient with yourself. Be patient with the situation. And you need to be able to decide, this is what I want to do. And if that's what you have the clarity, this is how you're going to move forward, and everything lines up in your life, then you can move forward. But you have to take the time to determine this is the path that I want to take. I still say have patience with yourself, because it can be scary, because it could be an area where you've never gone, I mean, a particular path you've never gone into. But be patient with yourself and decide where you want to go, because it takes time. It just isn't always immediate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Patience as well as it takes time.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
so much to learn about all this from you, Carla, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more from you, and also perhaps be your client. What's the best way for them to do so?
Oh, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I am also I have a YouTube channel. You can reach out to me on YouTube, and also Facebook and Instagram. And then my website is coachconsultinggroup.info.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much.